Well, hey there, gang. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. It is officially 9 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock Eastern, and 7 a.m. Pacific. So we're going to get started right away here. I'm super excited to go ahead and be able to talk about Dr. Keith for a moment. Of course, I've known Dr. Keith now for over 15 years, back as a student, part of my student family. And I remember just our conversations years and years ago, and then taking my work and combining it with, his work, really developed some powerful opportunities. And you putting that in real dollar perspective. And good morning to you too, gang. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you around the world. So, what's exciting is the thing about Dr. Keith is that, like, put it in kind of real dollar perspectives, right? He's had massive payouts, and past before is not indicative of future results, but he just went in and took two more payouts. He did the request and got the acceptance last week. And now, yesterday, he submitted for two more payouts again. And we're not talking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000. I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. And it's very excited to see what he's done over the years with my work and what he's gone ahead and done with his work, and combining that and making peanut butter and jelly, Reese's peanut butter cups, pick your favorite mixed flavors that make something special. And that's what he's done. And so, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get Dr. Keith up here to go ahead and, share these strategies again. I really want to make sure you're paying attention. And I'm going to stop the share here so he can put his screen up now, and looking forward to, his exciting presentation. It's so important to pay attention to it. Those of you that have watched him in action, before, like in the different events within Wealth Charts and on the Wealth 365 summits and everything else, just how valuable and exciting and informative this can be. So with that being said, it's great to see all of you. I want to come in and say hi to my own student family here for a moment. And now I want to turn it over to the main event, Dr. Keith.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, everybody. Just need to get the screen share turned on so I can open my slides here. But how exciting.
Give it a try there.
Okay, there we go. Thanks, Rob. Perfect.
You bet.
All right. So again, good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you for spending the time here on this Saturday morning. But one thing I can hopefully guarantee you is that you're going to be excited about what you're going to see today, and it's worth your time. So, as Rob mentioned, I started out in my trading career learning from Rob almost, as soon as I started trading. I was very fortunate from that standpoint. And what I'm going to show you today does tie in beautifully with his work. I basically, looked for something throughout the years that it made it my own. And so I'm very excited about this today. But before we get started here, folks, reminder that past performance of any trading system or methodology is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you. Okay, so again, with that, folks, as we get started, we got so many new folks that have come on board. I always like to just give a quick introduction of myself. So if you don't know who I am, you have a little bit to know about me. I've got my PhD in finance, professor trader. Again, I've been trading now for like 19 years or so. I've been working with Rob actually for, when I looked it up, it's over 17 years, which is crazy because I still look the same. But I'm a rule-based trader. Okay, so as you'll see as we go through the presentation today, you'll know, okay, if Dr. Keith got into this trade based on these rules, this is when he would exit and manage the trade and so forth. And I use HikenAshi candles, okay, and that's what we're really going to learn about today, folks. And I added this over the last year when I started prop trading, okay? Those of you that come see me in the Wealth Charts Live trading room every morning know I love to prop trade now. It's a phenomenal opportunity. When you look at history in general, what a great time to be a trader, right? I mean, not only the volatility in the markets on itself is great. This time of year coming up is my favorite time of year to trade, right? But what prop firms like Apex has allowed many traders to do that would have never had the opportunity is absolutely incredible. So again, please listen to today's presentation and grab information that's relevant to you. And then, of course, you can ask questions throughout. Now, as I get breaks and within, I will get that going. Okay. So again, I I've recently had, as Rob mentioned, a couple payouts last week, and I requested a couple more last night. I've had over 5-digit of payouts, as Rob has mentioned, for July, and just, again, took a couple out last week, requested a couple more this week. And again, it's all about having a trading system, folks, and executing, okay? And so, as I'm going to go over today, my favorite opportunities are when we're trending. It doesn't matter up or downtrend, right? That's the beautiful thing. We get a retracement, and then you look for that resumption. Okay, and where most traders fail, not necessarily even as getting in at the retracement. Many can do that pretty well, but where they fail is how to manage it once they're in the trade. And so, what most traders do is if they're wrong, they don't really move their stops too low. I mean, they do move it too low, and so they have big losses. Okay, so stop loss for them could be a big loss, right? Or just as important, when you're right, you want to be right as long as possible, okay? You don't want to turn in a potential, especially I'm talking really for these evaluation accounts, folks, or your own brokerage account. If you can grab the meat of a trade, which I'm going to talk about a lot today, roughly 80% of a move, okay? And instead of doing that, you get out with maybe 5% of the move because you finally made a little bit of money, which is great, right? I mean, anytime you make money in the market is great. But this is where most traders, why they're not successful. They don't know how to manage. They don't really have a plan once they get into the trade. Okay, so if you're one of those, don't feel bad. It's very normal. And that's what I like to teach on how I'm doing and how I'm managing my trades in order to grab these payouts, okay? So again, as I mentioned yesterday, I requested 2 more Apex payouts. Looking forward to getting, hopefully, that approved here. They're pretty quick at approving payouts and then having that put in the account next week. And again, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you a chance to join this program. We had just a tremendous opportunity this week in the markets, folks, and it's going to get better and better, in my opinion. So again, please pay attention. Question for all of you as we get started on this beautiful Saturday morning here, at least in Western North Carolina. Are you currently using a prop firm like Apex, or are you interested in learning how? Okay, so just type in a yes or a no. By the way, folks, let's say you're trading your brokerage account and you like to day trade. Absolutely, you should be listening in today. Okay, if you like to swing trade, absolutely, you should be listening in today as well, because the rules are identical except for a couple minor tweaks. Okay, so again, you should learn something no matter what type of trader you are today. But obviously, we marketed this for prop firm people, and so I assume, as I'm seeing through here, most of you are definitely doing, the Apex accounts, for example. Okay, and that's great. Okay. So go ahead and type in some of the struggles you've had to get funded, or once you get funded, keeping your live performance account active. And again, if you're trading your own brokerage account and you've blown it out, same type of situation. And the reason I like to show this is because then I'll just kind of go over some examples. I won't give names. And so you don't feel alone. We just dropped my son off to college the last couple of days, and pretty emotional, to be all honest with you. But what's cool about it is right there we know now that there's a plan for him and that there's going to be struggles. He's going to have to do things. And so what the schools did really well is they basically listed, these are some of the feelings you're going to have as a new college student being away from home for the first time, right? Well, as a trader, you have the same type of struggles, whether it's managing the risk and so forth. So it's good to kind of see you're not alone, okay? And so, a lot of people are saying exactly what most traders will say: discipline, right? Failing in the evaluation because I'm being too aggressive, not having a plan once I get into the trade, taking big losses, okay, but having small profits. Again, that's very, very common, and it's probably because you just don't have a plan, okay? And I'm going to teach you a plan today, okay? So again, what I'm about to show you is how I funded my 20 Apex accounts, folks, and achieved significant payouts so far. And again, the reason I like to say that is because I think you should learn from folks, right, that have been successful at something. I mean, I've always thought it was funny that if you go to a psychologist and you're trying to learn on how you can better teach your kids something and they've never had kids, I'm sorry, it's really tough. Only parents can really understand that. And it's the same thing with trading. If you can't achieve payouts, you shouldn't be teaching it, again, in my opinion. Okay, so again, I've had tens of thousands of dollars already paid out. Again, as Rob mentioned, not 70, 80, more than that, folks. And so again, pay attention. We're going to get started now. How did I do this? How did I fund my 20 accounts? How do I achieve, these type of payouts, right? That's the real question. That's what you're here to learn, right? I mean, it's great. You get to know me. Again, those of you that are in the, Well Charts live training room with me, we learn a lot together. We do a lot of trading together. But the bottom line is, how did I do this? How am I consistently getting payouts? So when I started, and by the way, folks, obviously the markets are not running today, but we will still go into well charts. I've got some examples from the last day or two. That's what I like to do, where I give recent examples of setups, because the goal today is to teach you, okay? But when I started last summer, it was to teach my son, who I just shipped off to Furman, to college, was to really let him learn how to trade, but have skin in the game. Okay, because it's great, and I still myself will simulate trades and learn as I'm learning different strategies or tweaking strategies. But as we all know, there's nothing better that from a psychology standpoint than to be in a trade where there's skin in the game, right? And so when you look at like Apex, for example, again, this is just a snapshot. They have different specials in that, but just bear with me here. Right? Some of the benefits of prop firms like Apex is the capital access, right? So you can get a 50K account for roughly $19 typically for a 50K account, right? And what that means, folks, is, if you make $3,000 on that account without losing $2,500, which is a trail, but again, just think big picture. So if you make $3,000 without losing $2,500, you get to that $53,000. You then, for roughly $140, because it depends on the special, you pay a one-time fee. And now you have an account we call a performance account, a PA account, where you can then start qualifying for real life payouts, right? Like I've had. And so the overall risk is $159. What I mean is, let's say you get to your live PA account and you lose, you don't have a stop in place, you're learning, and you lost the $2,500 and you blow it out. Well, you didn't actually lose the 25 of your own account, right? Apex takes care of that for you, right? What you lost is your 159. And so just from a pure capital access standpoint, to have a 50K account that you're paying a minimal fee for, that you can get real life payouts like myself, is incredible. And by the way, if you want, you can scale, and like I have, and I've got 20 live accounts. So if I make $200 a day in an account times 20 accounts, if I'm copy trading or whatever, right, you can see the math, right? And that's what's incredible about this, okay? Absolutely incredible. All right, so how many of you are currently using HikenAshi in your training? Okay. How many? Yes or no is fine in the chat. Typically 80% of you are, 20% aren't. Some of you said, no, I'm going to kick you off the webinar. No, I'm just kidding. No, so again, as a trader and as you attend these educational events, what's important is you find a good fit for you. Can I promise you that HikenAshi is going to be the best fit for you? No. But I'm going to show you how I do it and how I've been successful, not only in trading my live brokerage accounts, obviously, for years, but then also the prop firms, okay? Okay, so what HikenAshi does, folks, first is averages price data to create a Japanese candlestick chart that filters out market noise. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier in the week, this was a key thing for me. As a university professor, when I was doing that full-time years ago, part of my job isn't just to teach finance courses, okay, but it was to then do research. So I got to spend the university's money, their funds, as part of my research to learn how to trade, right? Again, how fortunate am I, right? That's why I love to give back, because I do. I feel very fortunate. Yes, I worked my tail off to get my PhD, to get into these positions, but sometimes it's all about being at the right spot at the right time as well. So, but when I saw this, when I was doing my research and trying out different systems, and I looked at filter out market noise, one thing that I learned a long time ago was it's really, really hard. Let's say you're taking a long play. It's really hard to get in right at the bottom, okay? And it's really hard to get out right at the top, Okay, that would be perfect. If we could find a way to do that every time, we all would do that, right? But that's not really something that most of us can do. In fact, I don't really know of anybody that can do that consistently at the bottom and get out at the top. Because if you're picking bottoms or picking tops, a lot of times it's going to go against you, right? But what I can do really well is grab the meat of the trade. Okay, I call it the 80% or so of that move. And I've designed my system around that. Okay, so again, that's what's key. And so when I saw filter all market noise and really try to stay in a trend as long as possible, that's where HikenAshi came into play for me. Okay. So HikenAshi candles uses averages price to create each candle. And again, for me, it really shows and identifies trends. Okay. As simple as trading, you can make trading, I should say. Okay, what most people forget once they get in and they're starting to look, or they're day trading or even swing trading, right? They'll say, why didn't I do well today? And then when they go back and look at a trend, this is what it looked like for the day. Okay, that can be very difficult for most traders. Okay, a trend like this, if you know how to manage it properly, can be much, much more effective. Okay, but I say management effectively because I know many traders that trade the trend and they don't do well for the same reasons I mentioned earlier. If they're wrong, they don't really have good risk management at all, and so their losses are way larger than their wins, okay? All right, so we're looking at HikenAshi candlestick patterns, folks. Again, bullish is the green, which you can change the color. And it's very simple from the standpoint of the more it's colored, the more bullish the candle is, okay? And for the downside, the more is colored red in this case, the more bearish it is. And so we can make decisions based off the HikenAshi formation. So, having a no wick bottom, I call these flat bottoms. These are bullish candles, okay? But this is definitely the most bullish candle that's more bullish than this. Or the flat tops, the no wick tops. Okay, these mean something to me when I'm looking to enter into a trade, okay? And this is the most bearish candle, okay? So you'll hear me refer to flat bottoms, which is right here, no wick bottoms, and flat tops. Very, very technical term, folks, there, okay? So here's just a real basic example on what I look for, and then we'll get into some more here. But let's say, it was green, and then you're looking to short, which you're going to learn how I do that. Okay, and all of a sudden you get to that second, change the color here, you get to that second red HikenAshi candle, and that can be an entry for me, okay? From all the research I've done and so forth over the years, the second candle is a better confirmation than the first. It's hard to see here, but this is the wick. This could be your stop, okay? The swing point is what I like to use as stops, or the moving average, or the champion trend, or the champion cross. You decide based on your risk tolerance, okay? And so if you entered short here, though, you have your stop in place. The rest is easy, okay? Trading isn't easy, but the psychology is easy now based on the rules I've created for myself. Okay, so now I would stay into this trade until the close of the second HikenAshi green opposite color, okay? And again, looking to grab roughly 80% of that move. What's the unknown here when you're in the trade? Well, you know what your stop is, but you don't know when you're going to get out because you're just waiting for that second green. Now, I know a lot of you are forward thinking. You're saying, wait a minute, when do you move your stop to break even? Do you take any partials off? Yes, you can do all of that, and I do that in the Wealth Charts Live training room. But what I really want you to focus on now is don't get distracted from that. Focus on the entry to the exit of the last part of your contract. So let's just say you did, 2 micros, okay? Maybe you get rid of one here for whatever reason, right? But you keep one. You moved your stop to break even. You keep one until that second green or the trail hits, okay? So don't get too caught up in the overall because everyone's going to manage it differently. But what I can tell you is if you do it too tight, you're going to have the same issues. You're going to have small wins all the time. You never get these big wins because you're not managing it properly, okay? So some of the benefits of HikenAshi compared to regular price, it slows down the speed of the market. And that's good for me because, even if I'm trading off a 1 minute, you see me trade off the 10-second chart, right? The 5 minute, I want to have specific rules. And when I mean slow down the speed of the market, it shows me the trends. Okay, it allows me to stay when I'm right into that trade longer. Okay, that's really how I've received payouts is I have really good risk management skills. I have good setups, and that's what I follow. I don't overtrade. Okay, when I'm done, if I'm trading my PA accounts, for example, and let's say they're the 50K accounts I have with APIC. Okay, when I make $200 to $300 on those accounts for the day, I don't keep trading. That's my rule. You can, but that's my rule, right? And then once I get to that $2,000 payout request, then I start all over again and keep doing it, right? So, I don't look to have one day where I make a huge amount on the PAs I'm talking, because then you start having consistency rules. Somebody typed in there, they're having a hard time with Apex consistency rules. It's just because, again, it doesn't have to be difficult. You just have to be consistent, okay? They don't want gambling, and that will help you in real life trading, okay? But again, this allows me a rule-based strategy. And again, the cool thing is you can use it on any time frame. So those of you that love to swing trade like myself, remember, I not only day trade, okay? I swing trade, and I swing trade in, stocks, most of that via options play, futures, and Forex. And then I day trade, okay? I started out as a pure swing trader back almost, 19 plus years ago, okay? And so it can be used standalone or in conjunction, like with Rob's work is fantastic. Let me repeat that. It's phenomenal with Rob's work as well, okay? And those of you have, for example, already have Apex Wealth Charts or Wealth Charts Ultimate, right? You can get into that Champion Trend Pack, and we use that all the time, right? Or other systems. You may have, somebody said, hey, I love Bollinger Bands. You can use HikenAshi, absolutely. You can use it in combination as, just another tool in that toolbox, okay? Absolutely, Jamie. Okay, so with that, folks, let's get into the product. So the first part of my product is the HikenAshi candle. We call it you can see right here, the advanced trend. And what it is, it's a HikenAshi candle, but then it also has the open and close of actual price. So like right here, this is the open of actual price. This is the close of actual price, but it's a red HikenAshi. Okay. Here is a bullish candle with actual price with more like indecisiveness, right? You see the open and the close really together. So I don't have to go back and forth to see what actual price is done or is doing. We've obviously created that within Wealth Charts to do that for us. Okay. And so, this red line, you can change the colors to any color you want, but it moves as that candle through, so if this is a 5-minute chart, throughout those 5 minutes, this red bar is moving right until the close. Okay. And then again, something very, very important to me is the advanced trend. I call it the HikenAshi dots. Okay. This is how I manage the trade. And so if you're taking a long play, you see how it turned, which you're going to learn, yellow back to green here, yellow back to green. Okay, that allows me then, with my risk parameters in place, to stay into the trade until I get a red dot, at least part of that trade, right? And in this case, without even looking at price, you could still be in that opportunity. Again, I can't say that enough. That is where most of you fail. You take small wins and large losses, small wins and large losses. Too much caffeine today. My writing is terrible. Okay, so HikenAshi, also we created the HADS, again, a fan favorite. HikenAshi Delta Smooth is what that stands for. And in this case, it's the white line. Again, you can customize it in any colors you want. But what we look for is those stretches, folks. Okay, and it's not a normal stretch. It's a HikenAshi stretch. And what I mean by that is it's basically looking at extreme positive or negative HikenAshi delta. And this is like a rubber band effect. Okay, it's super powerful. And traders use it one of two ways. One, let's say you're shorting something and you're very aggressive short, and then you get it to where it starts heading higher. It's stretched to the upside. Then all of a sudden you'll sit on your hands and wait to see if it comes back to another short play. Okay. Others use it only when it's in the direction of the trend. So let's say, for example, you're in an uptrend, you get a pullback. Okay. Then it resumes that uptrend. And then if you're looking at the HikenAshi Delta Smooth here, let's say it was something like like this, where it was doing this and then boom, and then it went like that, right? This is the HADS like it was here, back in the direction of that trend. Okay, that's my personal favorite. Stretching after a retracement back to the upside. Again, we see that all the time in the Wealth Charts live trading, right? Again, so what the HADS allows is traders to look for potential reversals, but I showed you how I like to look for those reversals. If I was aggressively short and then I start getting a HADS to the upside here, okay, I'm going to stop looking for shorts during that duration. And then again, going back in the direction of the overall trend. That's always been my highest probability opportunity, okay? All right, so here's an example of a HADS. You can see, again, you can color any way you want on these, okay? And we haven't talked about the flames yet. Don't worry about the flames yet. But here's the HADS extended, okay? And then when you have the HikenAshi dots telling you yellow back to green, that can be an entry as an opportunity, or what you're going to learn here just a few minutes now, above the moving average with the flat bottom can be an entry. Okay, but regardless of how you entered here, okay, you can also do it when it goes yellow back to green as a new entry. So many ways to enter here. This is a 1 minute chart on Palladium, but it doesn't matter, right? If it's a 20-second chart, a 1 minute, a 5 minute, a daily, same type of process here. And again, what we really look at, folks, what we really focus on is the management. So let's say, for example, you got in after the HADS, right? You're conservative, you get in right here. What you're going to learn, a good stop is this, see the wick here, the swing point. Because if it reverts and goes below that, you don't want to be in that anyway, right? You take your small loss if that happens. But if you're right, okay, you can see in this case, in this example, you would still be in the opportunity. But you have a plan now. You're just waiting. Every candle opens up, right? As long as you continue to stay yellow or green, you can stay into that opportunity. Okay, that's how you can potentially get some of those larger wins, right? All right, then the scoring flames. Again, it has over 12 HikenAshi scoring criteria. Okay, again, something you've never seen before unless you've been part of my webinars before. And again, this is its own brain, okay? It's not just looking at a trend and saying, okay, the trend's strong, I'm going to have a bunch of flames, okay? And what I mean by that is it's got its own mind. So what it does is based on these different criteria, HikenAshi criteria, and yes, the HADS is part of that criteria and so forth, then what it looks for is it helps you tell you whether something is bullish or bearish based on the time frame that you're in, okay? So let's say you're in an uptrend, you get a retracement back to the upside, and it's showing this one right here, net bullish 4 flames. Okay, you can have up to 5 bullish flames. So yes, I would be more apt to take that continuation trade if the HikenAshi algorithm was bullish. Okay, it can be bullish 1 to 5 flames. It can also be neutral. And then, of course, it can also be net bearish 1 to 5 flames. Okay, and so the question we always see in the Wealth Charts live training room as well is if you get into a situation where something's trending long, but the algorithm is bearish, okay, it's just a clue telling you this may not continue. So as a trader, you can decide, well, wait a minute, there's more risk. It's bearish. I'm not going to take it. Others will say, well, I'm going to take it, but if I normally do 2 contracts, I'm doing 1 because I know there's more risk of failure. Okay. Then we have the HikenAshi scanner. Okay, this obviously scanners are fantastic for many reasons, right? For me, 2 main reasons. 1, it allows me to focus on only the best setups based on how I define that, right? That's very important to me. And then 2, again, it does save time because then you're looking at scans, that are meeting that criteria. In this case, if I'm day trading, let's say you're looking at, maybe you'll trade all futures. I like to trade 4 or 5 different instruments. The S&P, the NASDAQ, crude and gold are my favorite, the Dow at times, the Russell. I swing trade all futures, but as far as day trading, but you can have it based on the time frame you're looking for, the net score. So you could be looking at, okay, the Russell's gone, net positive, 3 flames, I'm going to, look for longs, and, crude oil is net short, 3 flames, I'm looking for shorts, things like that. It updates based on the time frame that you're at, okay? And then, the entire scanner, which we'll go a little bit in today, but that'll be more for the training I do after the purchase, just because of the amount of time I could spend on here is literally, I could spend hours on here. Okay. By the way, we'll go till about 11:15 Eastern, folks, just so you know if you're budgeting your time here. Okay. And so, it gives you you can sort by bullish and bearish scores. You can sort by trend. You can sort by the HikenAshi dots. That's basically the HikenAshi dots. Do you want the weekly in that direction? Remember, I talked about the flat tops, the flat bottoms, and then fan favorite again is the hats. So some of my favorite scans. Again, I do a lot of this in my swing trading or 4-hour or 1-hour charts, especially yellow to green, yellow to red, hats, and all that. But just wanted to let you know that that's a big part of this package. Okay, and so very, very relevant information there. Okay. What time frames do I use? I use all time frames. If I'm day trading, my favorite time frames, okay, are the 1 and the 5 minute. Okay, but I have traders that use the 5 and the 15. And whatever time frame you like, absolutely, it all depends on the risk that you're willing to take. Okay. All right, so let's put it all together. And again, we are going to go into wealth charts here in just a few minutes, folks. But take a look here. So we talked about the indicators right here, right here, right here, right here. Okay, and then there's a scanner, obviously, right? Now, what I haven't talked about is this white line. Okay, and again, you can also substitute that, obviously, with the champion trend, champion cross, but that's not part of my package. So I put just everything that's part of my package. Now, what I like to use as well, which is just a stock indicator, within wealth charts, is the 20-period EMA. Okay, again, if you like the 18 EMA or the 25, whatever you like, it's a trend. It's basically helping you define if you're in a trend, right? And the more something is sloped, the better the trend. So when you're looking at, in this case, the NASDAQ on the 1 minute, okay, what I like to do, okay, to kind of sum up before we go in a bunch of examples, my favorite setup is when we have a HADS extended, okay, but then here would not be an entry for me, okay, unless I was being aggressive. And why is that? Because we weren't really in an aggressive uptrend at that point in time, right? What I look for is these type of retracements. That's my favorite setup. And a retracement is defined, in this case, by a yellow or could even be red HikenAshi dot back to green. That's my favorite entry. Okay, as long as at the time of the entry, the algorithm also agreed. Okay, so again, the cool thing is though the rest is simple, right? You put your risk in place, whether it's right here or the moving average, 1 or 2 places to put your stop. And then again, you exit at least the remaining part of your trade on the red HikenAshi dot at the close right there. Okay, and again, grabbing roughly 80% on average of the entire move. Okay, if you do that, folks, okay, that's how you can be more successful, in my opinion, because what you're letting this happen is you have small losses if you're wrong, right? You'll get some small wins. Not every win's going to be a great trending trade. We wish, right? But you will get some of those big wins. Okay, if you do it right, if you focus, if you manage trades, you can definitely get some of those larger wins. That's what builds the accounts up. That's what funds accounts. We see that every day in the wealth charts, live trading. Okay, I pretty much rarely go through a day where somebody said, Dr. Keith, I got another funded trade today. All right, here's an example on crude. Again, it doesn't matter what you're trading. This could be Apple. This could be Netflix, crude, Forex, whatever we're talking. Okay, but here's a 1 minute chart as well. It doesn't really matter. You see here that we had the retracement, yellow, green, red, yellow back to green. That can be an entry by definition. Stop. See the swing point right there with the red candle. And so again, if you're wrong, if this goes against you, you're out. You wait for the next trade. Remember, losing a trade is not defeat. Okay, it's not. Trading is nothing you'll ever do similar in your life with other stuff, right? Having a losing trade is just showing you how to manage, especially if you're managing where that losing trade isn't going to put a huge dent in your account, right? That's the key. So, a lot of new people that come into trading or traders that haven't been successful, the main issue that they end up having is they just don't want to lose, so they pull their stop, and then it keeps going against them, and then they blow out, right? Or maybe it does reverse. But again, even in that situation, that's not going to be a long-term successful opportunity. Okay. So in this case, if you entered there, as I mentioned, the exit is at the close. See the red bar right here? Grabbing the meat of that trade. Okay. Then you can always re-enter as well. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it all started with the HikenAshi Delta Smooth as well. See the HADS, the white line HikenAshi Delta Smooth, telling you this was probably a short-term bottom. And then when you get the retracement back in the direction of a defined trend, that's what we look for. Okay. Here's an example on the S&P on a 5-minute chart. Again, time frames don't really matter in this example, but just so you get a feel for it. Yellow back to green, flat bottom. Okay, so after a pullback, solid HikenAshi formation. Okay, if this formation, even with a green dot as an entry, was like this candle here, as a trader, this is really the only discretionary that I have that you can do, that I approve of, is if this candle would have been here, then you can say, well, even though it's a new green HikenAshi dot, that's kind of indecisiveness. So I'm going to wait for a better formation. So maybe you wait 1 or 2 candles until you get the setup. Now, in this case, we got it, right? But I'm just saying that's really the only thing I look for at times where why would I enter here if it's not really indicative of what might happen? You could wait until that new bar opens up, okay? But again, see the exit point, see the red dot, you're out, grabbing the meat of that opportunity, okay? Same with the short side. So this is an example of the euro. Again, we had a HADS, overextended. We're bearish at the time. Yellow back to red, flat top, beautiful opportunity. Going in the direction of that moving average, okay? Multiple time frames. Absolutely, you can use multiple time frames. So in this case, here's the 5 and the 1 minute. So if all of a sudden, you're looking to trade off the 1 minute, but you get a new 5-minute trigger, right, back in the direction of that trend, then you can look for the entries on that smaller time frame. So yes, you can use multiple time frames. Again, I do it all the time in the Well Charts live training room, just in case you had that question as well, okay? All right, so let's get into wealth charts here. Let me bring it up. And I'm going to give you my first example. This is an example I gave earlier this week as well, just to see. You can see we would still be in the trade, which we'll talk about in a minute. But again, just focus on the rules. Okay, that's what's really important today. So the first example I'm actually going to just give on the daily chart of a stock so that we really make sure that it's clear, okay? It doesn't move fast. You have opportunities, especially as a swing trader, to get some massive moves, right? So first of all, I look for is the trend. Okay, is it above the 20 EMA in this case? Okay, and it has been. Okay, it has been. So then we can start looking for opportunities. So let's say, for example, right here, we had the retracement, see the red dots, back to green, flat bottom. That can absolutely be an entry. 1 is with the trend. 2, flat bottom. And let's assume, because we actually, I know it was, but we actually don't know. This is as of right now, okay? But you would want this to be bullish, right? So if the algorithm is bullish, you can take that opportunity. Where's a good stop? Right below the moving average in this case, probably, right? You see the swing point? Still giving it enough room, but yet if it goes against you, you're out with a small loss. And again, the incredible thing about HikenAshi, folks, is at times when you're right, it can allow you to stay in during those type of consolidation moves. You see no red dot, folks? You could literally still be in this trade, okay? Now, in saying that, let's say you didn't get in at that point. Here's the reentry points. When it goes yellow back to green, that can be an entry. Yellow back to green, that can be an entry, okay? So you have multiple entry points as well if you didn't take a trade at a certain time, okay? So the only thing this didn't have during this move that would have made it my favorite trade is a really extended HADS down here, okay? And again, HADS is a bonus. It's a benefit when it's stretched like that, okay? A good example, let me just put in the NASDAQ real quick. A good example, and we talked about this in my videos back, I do a daily video. See how this is extended on the daily in early April? See how extended that is, that HADS? And then once you get a confirmation, a green dot, that's basically saying the likelihood this is going to be a bottom. Again, not forever, but if you were aggressively short here, you now sit on your hands, okay? That's how that can be useful. And then once you get to the uptrend, right, then you get your new entries long. But that's how important that HADS, no matter what time frame you're looking at, can be for you, okay? All right, so now let's look at some smaller time frames. Again, obviously the markers aren't running, so I just put together this morning some examples for you. So, those of you that you can trade, 23 hours a day on futures, right? There's a lot of traders that trade the Asian Open. There's a lot of you that are overseas that trade the European session. I'm up early, I'm up usually before 5, but at least by 5, and I'll look at charts to see what's going on. And here's just an example. These are all, in the last day or two, folks, okay? 3 a.m., but look at the HADS. HADS overextended, right at the European Open, right here, okay? And so again, I'm not looking to counter trend that, in this case, just go long. Sure, it would have been a great trade, and I know some of you do that. But the reason I developed the HADS was to say, don't look for shorts now, okay, until you get another opportunity anyway. This is probably a bottom, okay? The long is once you get above the moving average, right, then you can start looking for long opportunities there with these flat bottoms. But again, if you take it, let's say you took the flat bottom right here, right, you know when to exit now. So, oh, red HikenAshi right here, I'm out of this trade, okay? And again, the only other requirement here, which we don't see live right now because the markets aren't running, you want the HikenAshi algorithm to be bullish to increase your odds, of continuation, okay? That makes sense? So again, what I look for, one, the HADS, if you were shorting this, because it was below, right? So if we were bearish and we were looking for shorts, this is actually a good short setup based on definition, right? Below the moving average. But then once you got out and you saw this, you're like, okay, now we're probably going to get that rubber band effect back to the upside, okay? Excellent. Oh, yeah, so some are asking about the dots, which is a good question. The only time the dots will change is intra-bar. So this is a 5-minute chart, right? This could change, this yellow during this 5-minute bar can turn green, red, or stay yellow. But once it closes, it goes to the next one. It's not going to change again. That would be silly. I mean, that would be fraudulent, first of all, right? I mean, that's crazy. But no. So, again, and when you're at the larger time frames, rarely do they change. So if we open up on a daily green, rarely will that change on the daily. It could, though, right, until the close of that candle. Yeah. Good question, though. Okay. So now let's take a look here at the NASDAQ on the 1 minute. And you can see I did some research this morning for you because most of my time yesterday was spent at Furman with my son. But what we can see here, okay, this is 10 a.m., okay? And we were in an uptrend. We had the retracement, and it broke above the EMA again, right? So right here could be another entry, okay? At the time, we were bullish as well at the time, okay? And so if you enter here, and then you exit at the close of the red dot, okay, the close of the red dot, this move right here, just this move yesterday, was 100-point, roughly, I'm estimating, depending on how, you may took half off, however you do it, but basically a 100-point move, 2,000 per contract, okay? Then if you took this entry here, let me just blow this up a little bit here for you so you can see it clearly. If you took this trade here, which would be another good entry statistically, okay, small loss right here, okay? That's okay. There's nothing wrong with a small loss. Okay. Then you can see here another entry. So red, yellow, back to green. Again, the other criteria that would be is the algorithm to be bullish for the highest of probability in this uptrend. Okay, that was another really nice move to the long side. Okay, and you can see here the exit point. See the red dot? and that was another 57-point move. Now, reflect for a minute. How many of you took trades like that would normally stand that long? Okay, you're probably going to say, well, no, you take smaller wins, which again is great. Good job. But my point being is if we can normally grab 80% of the move, what if this would have continued for another 40, 50 minutes, right? That's how you can grow account. That's how you can get your evaluation accounts funded, right? Staying in as long as possible, following those type of rules. Okay? Yeah, what I look for when I have my PA accounts, I have specific profit targets, Amar. Yeah, I don't hold runners because you can then actually get denied payouts if one day is over 30% of your day's profits, right? Okay. Well, yeah. So let's say you were in this trade. Let's say you did five micros, right? Once you're up, let's say, I'm just making this up, folks, but just to give you an idea, let's say you're up. Let's say your goal is to make 100 ticks to get funded. So maybe once you're up 20 or 30, you take partial off, move your stop to break even, right? And then if you like to trail, okay, because especially if you're using larger size and you're worried about getting trail drawdown, I like to follow the flat bottoms as my trails. Okay. So, let's say you're right here. This is the candle you're on. You can go one or two flat candles back as the trail. Keep following it up. Okay. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay. Don't overcomplicate it. Okay. All right. Here's another example on the 1 minute here, 6 a.m. starting. Okay. Just to kind of show you some ideas here, right? So we're above the moving average. Okay, this is the NASDAQ again. I know a lot of you love the NASDAQ, right? I do. Okay, so 1 minute chart on the NASDAQ, yellow back to green. Okay, then you look, wait a minute. If the algorithm is bullish, we're in an uptrend, right? This could be an entry with probably the stop in this case, right, where I'd put it right at that moving average, right? See the wick here as well? That way, if we're wrong, we're out. Okay? And look at the nice run here. Okay? Then you see a hat. HikenAshi Delta Smooth, right? See that extended green back in the direction of the overall trend. That's actually my favorite setup, folks, right? In this case, it wasn't the biggest winner. It's still a nice little winner there, right? This winner was bigger, but that's my favorite setup here, okay? That makes sense? This is an EMA, yeah. Yeah, this is Eastern Standard Time, folks. Eastern Standard Time. I'm in North Carolina. Okay. Okay. Awesome. So I got more examples to share with you folks, but are there any questions on that? So again, we look for the trend. We want for the highest probabilities, right, the HikenAshi algorithm to agree. We then look for the entries based on the management of the trade. And if we have a HADS, that's an extra bonus, right? Extra bonus. But what really makes it successful then is the management of the trade based off of the high probability entries, right? There's a plan in action. And that's where most traders fail. And I've talked to hundreds of traders, obviously. I talk to traders every day in the Wealth Charge Live training room. I've mentored before. I understand because I've been through it years and years and years and years ago. Okay? Okay. All right, so we're going to go back into live charts, but let me get into the presentation, the slides a little bit more here. Okay? So some of you are already asking, which is great. What is the offer today? Okay, again, we're going to go until 11:15 Eastern, so we still have another 25 minutes, first of all. So I've got way more teachings to do, but I do want to go in and show you the offer just so you can get going with that. So again, what you're going to get today is the advanced price. Okay, the advanced price, which is, as you know, the HikenAshi candles with the open and close of actual price. The advanced trend, okay, the advanced trend, which is the HikenAshi dots, the management of that trade. The HADS, Okay, the HikenAshi Delta Smooth. And by the way, as I mentioned, you can change the colors that you like. And then the scoring flames on the chart, obviously, and then, of course, the scanner. Okay? So that scanner has all kinds of different functionality that I briefly showed you earlier. Okay? So that's part of what the package is. Okay? So if you're interested, again, it's only going to be offered, I'll just show you here, until the timer is out here at the end of the webinar, 24 minutes and 44 seconds. But it's becomeabettertrader.com/HA. becomeabettertrader.com/HA. The normal price is $29.97. Today, we're going to give it to you for a one-time fee of $9.97. Okay? That also comes with hours of training. So there's all kinds of pre-recorded trainings that I do. Every time I do a training event, like Monday we're going to do one I'll talk about in a minute, those are recorded. Okay, but I always do a live one as well so that I can answer your questions live. Okay? So that's this Monday coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern. In addition to that, those that sign up today as well will have limited access time to my live training room within WealthChart. What better way to learn than to see me in action? And again, during that, I'm not just trading. I'm not doing 100 trades a day. I'm teaching, right? So that you can do it on your own as well. But what a great way to learn a system, right? What a great way to learn a system than to see that. So again, it's becomeabettertrader.com/HA. You can see the number on the slide as well. Okay. Again, I got way more to show you, but I just wanted to get that offer out there. If you want to use PayPal, call the office. There, you'll see the phone number there. Or if you want to do a split payment, Julie, go ahead and call the office. Okay, if they happen to be on the other line, you leave a voicemail. As long as you leave that voicemail before the offer expires, that will count. That will lock you in. Okay? All right, now some of you are also asking about, hey, can I use... Well, I'll get to that in just a second. So let me give you a couple... What I do, folks, is in the WealthChart's live training room, as I'm getting feedback from everybody, I just do screenshots on some of these testimonials just so you can get a feel for what others are saying. So, Dr. Keith, thank you for your training. I've learned a lot and I'm still learning. You really helped me follow the indicators and not have fear of missing out. Okay, I've successfully funded an account as of today. I also bought 3 more evaluation accounts. Okay, so great stuff there, right? I just put a few on here, folks. Your methodical, patience-driven approach has improved my trading. I love the strategy. I've been 8 straight days of just looking for, the scalping, right? Grabbing X amount of ticks based on the entries and so forth. I do that a lot for the PA accounts, right? Caesar, great guy. Since I joined WealthChart, Dr. Keith, my trading has gone to another level. This past week, I made 2 pretty good withdrawals. Congratulations, Caesar. Regina, hey, Dr. Keith, I just qualified for my first evaluation thanks to you and all the wonderful training. And that's where I'm really trying to stress here, folks, is you're not put out on your own here. I mean, that's silly. I'm not in it to do that just to sell you something and be on your way, okay? I can just trade on my own. Again, just some more. I'm not going to read all of these, but just to kind of give you a feel for it, right, that there's a lot of people that have given a lot of great feedback, as I started doing this. And, it's really about being consistent. If you're right, staying into the trade. The evaluation accounts are fantastic to get some of these runners that allows you to, get funded, right? And then from there, once you get funded, you can manage the trade. Some of you are asking about hey, I have TD Ameritrade or Thinkorswim or, now they merged, right? But yeah, you can also get today, folks, for the same price a WealthChart's Jumpstart. So let's say for whatever reason you don't have, let's say you don't have Apex WealthCharts, right, or WealthChart Ultimate, okay? And let's say you have TD Ameritrade or, Charles Schwab now, right? You can still get this today, but it's going to be the Jumpstart version of WealthCharts, meaning you will have direct access to my indicators. You'll get your own login to WealthCharts. You won't get full access to all the other indicators out there, obviously, but you'll get access to mine. So you can chart using WealthCharts Jumpstart and then place trades still, obviously, directly with your broker, okay? You can also, again, paper trade that and so forth. We also, as a bonus, are going to give you some access to some of the other tools, some of Rob's fantastic work as well there. So if for whatever reason you don't have well charts yet, or you don't have well charts Apex, but you still want to grab my advanced HikenAshi package today, you can grab it. Again, same price, the Wealth Charts Jumpstart version. You'll get your own login within Wealth Charts, and you'll have pretty much instant access. So what I mean by that is once you click on it, you get access. You'll go up here to the menu. You'll click on Jumpstart, and then you'll see my layout, and you're good to go. So super easy, web-based, right? So if you change computers, not a big deal. Okay? Okay. Yes, we're going to get into live charts here. So let me go back into charts. And let's take a look at the NASDAQ again. So again, somebody is asking about TradingView. So again, you can get access to the Jumpstart version, which means you'll use the Wealth Charts platform. Okay, you'll get access here. It says app.wealth. You'll get access to the platform with my indicators. Then you can still place your trades on wherever broker you want, right? But the actual charting is on Apex. Is on Wealth Charts. In this case, the Wealth Charts Jumpstart. Okay. Okay. So here's an example on the NASDAQ on the 30-second chart. And I got fancy. I highlighted it for you here this morning. It all started. See how I put HADS here just to kind of remind you that we knew we were possibly at the bottom. Okay, possibly at the bottom here with the HADS overextended. But then once we got above the moving average, again, this is one of my favorite setups, right? You wait for the retracement. Okay, you wait for the retracement. Then it's confirmed. You see how you're in a more aggressive uptrend because you got the higher low, right? And then green dot could be an entry. I would prefer, I don't like to enter on the indecisive candles. This would be a better entry for me. Okay. But again, from there, when I say it's simple, again, obviously trading's not simple, but psychology and everything else, right? Your stop can be right below here. And again, look at how it kept you in this opportunity this week, right? And that's a 43-point move on a 30-second chart on the NQ this week, okay? In the afternoon, yeah. But what's really important is now you know it's not going to happen every trade you do, but if you follow rules, you can stay in these opportunities, right? I mean, this is how, again, I've funded my accounts. This is how I've requested payouts. What I typically do with my live accounts is I'll get into a trade like right here, and I'll have a profit target based on the high probability entry, okay? But if this is my evaluation, again, I already have 20 live accounts, but this is an evaluation. You want to extend it as long as possible. Or if I'm trading this in my live brokerage account, there's no reason, right? I don't have consistency rules on my my brokerage account, right? But what a great opportunity there, okay? Oh yeah, Marcus, becomeabettertrader.com/HA. Yeah, it's another 17 minutes, so you have plenty of time. Again, call the office if you have questions. I'll come back to the offer in just a minute. Okay. All right. So let's go over here and let me just click on something so we make sure we have enough time. I like to do this. I like to play the simulation game so we can really, the goal is for you to learn today, right? They just put it back into the chat for you, Adrian. So when you look at a 5-minute chart here, okay, this is on the NQ. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I reverse this. Okay. So what is the cost? The cost is a one-time fee, Michael, that I mentioned. Yeah. And if you have any questions, call the office there, but it's a one-time fee. Okay. But here's what I'm going to play this fast forward now, because then we get to see the algorithm in live time as well, right? Since obviously the markets are not running today. Okay. So let's just hit forward. Okay. So let me just stop right here. So right here, what we're noticing is what? We're noticing that we might be at a top. We're not really sure what's going to happen. Okay, let me fast forward. But again, when you're looking at that 5-minute chart on the NQ, you see how we went back to bearish here. Okay, and we have now a flat top. So you either could have went in here or here. Okay, that's right, Michael. Do you see the good place to put a stop or at the moving average? Again, that's your choice based on your risk tolerance, okay? But the rest now is all rule-based driven, right? So when will we exit this trade if you went short? Question, would we be out of this trade yet, folks, if we're following the rules, yes or no? Now, it doesn't mean you can't take partials off. Again, I understand all of that, but I'm just saying the remaining part of the trade, would you be in the trade still? That's right, you would still be in the trade, okay? So every 5-minute chart that goes by, you now have rules put in place, okay? Okay, so right here, you see the red or the green dot right here. So at the close, this is the close right here, you're out of the trade, okay? So from entry to exit, this was the trade. Okay? Now, let's say you got another short play, but it was bullish, you can sit on your hand. So a lot of people say, well, how do you know if a trend's ending? Nothing's guaranteed, folks, but that's why we use the algorithm to help us. Okay? All right, yeah, I've got more examples. Let me go back to the slides. I want to make sure everyone's clear on this offer because it's going to end here, folks, in 14 minutes. And if you want to be part of this family, I want you to get it. I really do. Okay, so 14 minutes here. But so what you get again is you get in the advanced HikenAshi system, it's a one-time fee, folks, of $9.97. So if you're doing Jumpstart as well, it's $9.97, folks, okay? You get the advanced trend, which is the candles, right? Exactly. Yep. You get the candles. You get the dots, right? The advanced trend. You get the HADs right here. You get the scoring flames on the chart right here. Super helpful. And again, it updates any time frame you're on, right? So if you're on a 10-second chart, obviously Wealth Charts has second charts. You're on the 1 minute, the 5 minute, or the 15 minute, or the daily, or the weekly, or the monthly. This updates based off of that, right? That's a beautiful thing. Okay. And then, which I go in a lot more detail during the live training, those that purchase or have purchased in the past, the scanner. And that in itself is where there's weight in gold, okay? And of course, anytime I do a live event like this Monday at 1 o'clock, and this will be recorded for you if you purchase, by the way. It's part of the library. You have plenty of recordings, okay? But I do a live training Monday at 1 o'clock going over much, much more detail, more specifics. And then, of course, I can answer all your live questions, okay? So, again, your purchase includes the indicators in the scanner. It includes the on-demand pre-recorded trainings, the live event, and limited access now, again, to your my live training session within Wealth Charts. And right now I'm holding them Monday through Friday, okay, other than when I was at Furman, from 9:30 to 11. And then also, in addition to, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm doing it from 8 to 9. Again, so you get to see and ask live questions every day in that training room. That's part of this offer today, okay? Again, since I joined Wealth Charts, my training's gone to another level. It's becomeabettertrader.com/HA, okay? Okay. So yeah, 11 more minutes now. I've got plenty more to show you, but I want to keep getting that offer out there so you don't miss out if you want it, okay? All right, so let me go back into charts. Let's look at another example. So this is the S&P on a 30-second chart, okay? And you can see here it's pretty choppy during this time frame. We're neutral. Okay, so let's just kind of play it and see what happens here as I fast forward. So again, you can see we just turned bullish. We were neutral, but we just turned bullish here on the algorithm. All right, so let's review. So we turned bullish on the algorithm back here. We had the slight retracement, see the yellow, back to green. Okay, this can be an entry, or again, my favorite would have been the The at least 50% colored is what I prefer over the indecisive. Okay, either or can be an entry with the exit at the close of that red dot. Okay, see how we're sloping? Yeah. Now, again, now for re-entries, which is a great question you should be asking, as we mentioned earlier, right? If we get another entry but it turns bearish or neutral, you can decide not to take and the probabilities are lower. Okay? Exactly. Okay. Let's take a look at gold. By the way, type in a 7 if you like these playbacks. Again, I think it's really, especially when the market's not running, just to kind of get a feel for, you know, how this is working, right? Because you can see in live time then, you know, the algorithm as well. So this is gold on the 1 minute chart. I'm going to go ahead here and just, oh no, that one's not. Okay, I don't have a playback on that one. Let's see, I think I've got, oh yeah, Bitcoin. So I know some of you ask about Bitcoin a lot. So let me go ahead and do a playback here on Bitcoin as well. So as I start playing it, first of all, you can see the algorithm's neutral, bearish, neutral. It's kind of consolidating here. Okay, consolidating. Now we start getting, by the way, and this is what I love seeing, these solid formations. So probabilities are now increasing if you're above the moving average and you're bullish as an opportunity, okay? That's what you get to decide based off of that. And you keep seeing these solid formations, okay? And the reason I wanted to show you this example was very simple. I'm going to show it when it's over. Okay, so this trade would be over. This is the entry I actually would have wanted to take versus this entry. Because, you know, this is pretty flat. And even though we were bullish at the time, we don't know if it's going to break out. But as long as you have your risk parameters, you can take those. But here it's proven itself. We had the pullback right after some nice formations. You know, this was a small win with a higher probability opportunity. Okay? Does that make sense, everyone? So those are my favorite opportunities there. Excellent. Excellent. All right, so just a reminder, folks, becomebettertrader.com/HA. Again, they put that in the chat several times for you. 7 minutes of the offer. You know, I've gotten more than 50, 60, 70, 80, $90,000 in payouts so far, folks. And I really want to show you how I'm doing it and have the tools for you to be successful. You know, it's not easy, but if you have a system in place and you can be patient and you can look at a situation and you can use tools that are giving you those higher probability setups, okay, that's how you can be successful in trading, okay? And yeah, just requested 2 more payouts yesterday. They're pretty quick, even on the weekend, so I should probably find out here in the next 24 hours or so if those were approved. I'm not suspecting any issues, though. I've been really consistent in my profit taking and my wins. You know, I keep my losses small, so I'm not really suspecting any issues, but, you know, you never know. So, you know, again, folks, as you look for the offer, if you're looking to use the Jumpstart package, again, you can then place trades with your broker, but you can use the charting within Wealth Charts. It's the same cost right now at $9.97. Okay. All right. So yeah, we still have 6 more minutes. I just wanted to get that back in case you have any questions. You will get an email, Robert, with any of the pre-recorded. You have your own login where you can go back and watch those. Okay. Jeff says the playbacks are very helpful. Yeah, absolutely. They're helpful because, again, you can go back and look, hey, this was like a great setup. Did the algorithm agree or not? Okay. Awesome. All right, let me go back here. Yeah, so here's an example. For example, let's bring up crude. So crude, you know, this is the 5-minute chart. How many of you like to trade crude? Yeah, my favorites when I'm day trading is NASDAQ, S&P, crude, and gold. Absolutely, Peter. Okay. And so here's an example where, again, it's a great place to kind of review what we're doing. We're in an uptrend, right? You see how we're above the moving average. Okay. And as you know, once it confirms, okay, that's my favorite setup. The only thing that would have made this even better if the HADs would have been even extended coming back up, right? That would have been my favorite. I call it my 10 out of 10 trade. Not that it works every time, but that's my favorite setup. Okay. But again, the beautiful thing here, as we kind of analyze this, you have your entry here, flat bottom, stop here, here with the swing point or, the red candle here, one of two stops. Okay. But from there, again, the rest of it is simple from the management standpoint. See the red dot, you exit. Again, just this move, folks. What a great move, right? 27 ticks, $10 a tick, right? 27 ticks, right? That right there is a good PA trade as an example, okay? Then, of course, you then can resume if you like, right? Back in the direction of the trend. If the algorithm is still bullish, that can be another resumption trade. So you can take it, protect yourself, and get right back in if that trend continues. But let's say at this point, all of a sudden the algorithm was net bearish or neutral, you can decide, well, wait a minute, we may be losing that trend now, right? We may be losing that trend now, okay? Very important to have rules in place there so that you can see if it's something that you need to worry about there, okay? Yeah, 3 minutes, 50 seconds, then I'll let you on with your weekend, but here's an example for heating oil. Again, let's look at a downtrend example. So again, as it's going higher, we're not looking for shorts, right? And if you wait until the dip below, this is aggressive, right? From what I've taught you, because why? Well, we were actually more in an uptrend. So what I like to do, whether it's uptrend or downtrend, is wait for that retracement, then look for the entry. See where I put the arrow here? This was an opportunity here. Again, as long as at the time of the entry, the algorithm was bearish. Okay, you can also see a HAD saying this is probably the short-term top. Okay, so that's entry one. Then you're out, you get a pullback. You can go right back in if the criteria is being met here. Okay, and again, see how that allows you to stay in during some of this digestion, I call it, right? And then you exit right there. Okay? Yes, becomeabettertrader.com. They just put it back in the chat, Mark /HA. Yep. And yes, you can use PayPal. You just call the office. In fact, let me get the slide back up there for you as we get close to concluding here. Becomeabettertrader.com /HA. And that's the number. You can call the office. That will lock you in here during the next couple of minutes. Okay? That's right. Yep. But it's really, again, folks, let me just draw you a picture here. In a nutshell, if we can get a situation where we get extended HADs back in the direction of the trend with this HikenAshi formations and then manage the trade to grab 80% of that move, okay, that's how I've grabbed all these evaluation accounts to PAs. I've received payouts by just following, those type of rules. But yeah, so you can call the office if you want to split payment as well. Evelyn, yep, you can do that as well. Or again, if you just want to talk to somebody, you can call in down here. If they're on the other line, just leave a message that will lock you in, okay? But they did staff for today, so you will get a call back today, okay? All right. Any questions, folks? We got 1 minute and 19 seconds. I want to make sure I'm answering all your questions. Yeah, so that will be Monday. Okay, let me just get over to that slide for you. Monday at 1 o'clock Eastern is when I'll do the advanced training for all of you that purchased today. Or, of course, anybody that's ever purchased in the past is always welcome, right? And that will give you also limited access to my well-charged live training room as well. So to me, it's a no-brainer if you're really looking at ways to move to the next level. It's worth it. And again, you don't just see me once. I'm here Monday through Friday, folks. So, we spend a lot of time together, right? That there is, just call the office if you have a question on payment plans, okay? Melody, I would do payment plan. Just call the office. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. Yeah, you can call the number, Peter. Thank you so much for attending today. Again, I hope it was well time spent for you, no matter what. I hope you reflect a little bit on risk management. And hey, wait a minute. You know what? A loss does not mean I'm bad, right? Loss is part of trading. But hey, when you're right, let's try to be right as long as possible. Does that make sense? Hey, Emilio. So you can get the Jumpstart package. You can call the office, Emilio, and get the Jumpstart package. Okay, and they'll explain that more if you're confused on that. But that will give you access to wealth charts with my indicators, right? And then you can chart using wealth charts, and then you can still place the trades with your broker. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Again, I hope you enjoy. As a reminder, looking forward to those of you that have purchased here to join me on Monday as well. That will be recorded, though, if that's the time that you can attend, okay? Well, thanks, JJ. I'm glad it was time well spent. I'm off to spend some time with the rest of the family now that my son's gone. You know, I got to keep my time busy with my girls here. But I wish, let's see, Maish, I missed your question. Before they get, yeah. Well, the algorithm is, it updates even intra-candle. Mahesh. But once that candle's closed, it won't change, obviously. That'd be silly. Okay? Make sense? All right. Well, good luck, everybody. Hope to see you on the other side, and I will talk to you next time. Good luck, everyone. Take care.